Welcome to the It Crowd podcast. My name is Josh Lowrey. We are coming to you from the Upright Digital Media Studios at Prang & Associates office in Houston, Texas. My name is Josh. I am joined with the co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Richard Rodriguez. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you? You sound a little under the weather today. You all right? I'm feeling good?
I'm fine, Richard. Thank you for asking. I don't feel great, but let me rephrase that. I feel great. I sound like I don't feel great. There's allergies in the air. I took an Allegra, and it makes me feel like I have medicine head, even though I don't have any medicine.
Yeah. I mean, I care about you. Like, people know our relationship and how much I care about you. So I want to make sure that, the audience understands.
Yes.
You're playing hurt today.
I am playing hurt, but, everyone knows I'm pretty humble. I was voted the most humble, which is nice. So my hurt is most people's 150. So it really doesn't matter if I'm injured today. I'm going to play through. I'm going to go 5 under for the round, and we're going to have a couple hole-in-ones. Kim Jong-un type of golf round. If you don't,
energy,
yeah, 29 on the 18.
Throwing the ball out from the trees.
Right. But no, I feel great. So my favorite part about these podcasts is when we talk to ourselves like there's not a guest in the room. Should we acknowledge it? There's somebody else in the room. Folks, the only reason I'm playing injured today, not only because I love this podcast and love Richard, is because of who our guest is. I highly recommend you find us on all our socials so you can see the video, because we are videotaping this today, if video is the right way to say that. But we're on camera, and the accent is not going to match the personality. And one of my favorite...
There we go.
Well, it's just one of the best stories of all time. And really, Robbie Gulri, Robbie Gulri, what is your title? Head of Advanced Technologies with Intelisys, is our guest today. We could not love and like Robbie any more than we do. I would say that's a fair statement for the show.
Yes. We did a recording almost 2 years ago now at Thrive. Wow. Time flies.
2 years.
Time flies. We had dinner the night before and drinks, and there was this whole, Josh was being Josh on his phone, 1 year in, 1 year out, kind of, playing being Josh. And then all of a sudden, his head whips up, and he's like, your culture.
Well, yeah. So Robbie's amazing. Robbie sounds like he's from Atlanta. He is from the South, kinda. And I had my head down, and I was typing something. I wasn't just on my phone in front of our guests. But all of a sudden I heard somebody say, he was wearing an Atlanta Braves hat. And I heard him say something to the effect of, my culture. And I remember thinking, like, what white guy from Atlanta says in my culture? And I looked up and just started laughing, and I realized this guy's not from Atlanta, or kind of is. So
sort of.
I know that's a great joke, but it just goes to show, like, you have been such a gamer the entire time we've been friends. Your career is awesome. We're going to get into that. We're going to let you talk in a minute. I might just keep going here. We'll see.
You keep going, man.
But there's a lot to talk about. So again, welcome to the program, Robbie.
Thank you.
You are a great return guest. And how are you, sir?
I'm very good. I was telling my wife I'm really looking forward to doing this podcast, and it started off absolutely exactly what I expected.
Good. Well, we hope it gets even better. We're going to go for a little bit. I also tell people that, the guest makes the show. It's either you're pulling teeth or you just kind of just open it up and let the guy go, and that's what's going to happen today. So
from Amritsar, that's the town that I was born in, to Atlanta. So yeah.
So where were you born?
In a little town called Amritsar. It's not that little anymore. It's in Punjab, near the border of Pakistan, on the India side. So baseball was the way that I got assimilated in this country, and learned how to speak the language. And I use that as my storyboard all the time. Well,
I'll tell you what, you got a great story. And if you don't mind, kind of give the audience, so the show's grown since you were on here last. It's gotten a lot bigger, a lot more influence. We've been literally around the world with the show, which is incredible. So if you don't mind giving the audience just a little background about who you are, where you've come from further, however you want to go back, career-wise, and where you are today. That way they understand who they're listening to.
All right, let's do a bit of an elevator pitch.
There you go.
So first of all, I brought cash, so I'll give you guys some crisp $50 bills for some of the compliments. I really appreciate that. So like I said, born in India, we immigrated here, mom and dad, and my younger sister. And, typical immigrant story, as a lot of us have here, where, wanted to really play baseball. But my dad was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to be an option for you. You're not that good. And I wasn't that good. And so I ended up going to Georgia Tech studying electrical engineering. I studied mathematics, and I thought I was going to be a real engineer. And, I guess I'm a pseudo engineer. I saw the real engineers behind the computer running CAD applications and doing all kinds of interesting, engineering, discipline problem things. I really wanted to be in the front of the house, as we like to say, right? So I wanted to be a customer-facing, business problem-solving, using my communication skills to be able to articulate really complexity, which most of technology is, into something that, what I like to say is clarity. How do you explain technology in a way that people can understand and frankly can activate? And so really most of my career, and I won't bore you with the details, but it's really around that central theme, is how do you take complexity in technology, and all the engineers like us like to make things really complex, but how do you really translate that into something that's simple to execute, simple to generate ROI from, and simple to, ultimately serve the needs of the business and the customers that particular business is serving. Last time we did this, I was the field CTO at a company called RapidScale. Very grateful and blessed to have had that opportunity to work at such a good company. And since then, I decided to move over to a company called Intelisys, where I am the head of advanced technologies. Another way to say it is I'm the head of janitorial services. Technology is messy, Richard.
Yes.
And what's our job? Well, our job is to clean it up and help people basically solve those challenges.
And I know that I always associate you with being an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
And there, because you missed that little step, but you are mentally, the way you serve customers, very entrepreneurial inside of a large company, which I think is unique, but you've had that experience as well.
The experience when my mom and dad, going back to the history of us and our families in the US, we don't have a lot of options, right? My mom and dad aren't educated, when my dad was alive. So what options do you have? You can go work at the fast food place, or you can eventually own a fast food place. And so that's pretty much the path. And so my first experience in entrepreneurship is really through the eyes and the hard work of my parents and my own aunts and uncles, and everything from convenience stores. Yes, I fit the stereotype. Restaurants, trucking companies, real estate companies are some of the businesses that my family has owned. So I've seen, the start and growth, and frankly, the death of a lot of businesses throughout my career. And for my personal journey, I've also dabbled in various business ventures and opportunities, some to a lot of success and some to a lot of failure, and that's how you ultimately learn. And that lesson really well, Josh.
Oh, buddy, we do. And I'll tell you, audience, go back and find, it was from Thrive 24, perhaps, where we interviewed Robbie on that episode. And then we get into a little bit more of the family history. But listen, nothing is more impressive than hard work. Period. There's a lot of, I don't care how you get there. There's 100 different stories we can talk about, from immigrants to, natives, whatever you want to say, right? The only thing that Rich and I talk about this, the only thing we really respect is scar tissue. That's the best part about the guy or girl that's willing to just get up one more time. So great stories. I highly recommend you go back to that. All right, here we go. So we're going to get to Intelisys and just kind of some of this stuff here. I don't know if I should say this or not. I'm going to say this because this is not a commercial for Intelisys or a commercial for Robbie. It's just, these are the realities of the world that we've lived in. I'm not sure there's been a group of people that's been more impactful to Richard, the ClearSync brand, et cetera, than Intelisys. You have the people that you're working with now are fantastic. They have just opened it up that, there's not a dumb question that we're not allowed to ask. There's been people in there that just kind of jump through hoops to get questions answered for us. So it's going to be nice to talk about that brand and all that you guys are doing over there now. And I want to hear how that transition's going. So Caitlin, the extraordinary producer, and lots of things. There's a lot of titles. She's put together the best notes ever here.
I had a chance to look at them, and I'm very impressed and surprised at what I found in my own notes. Notes about myself.
I didn't realize I was this good. one of my things you said, and that's actually the beginning of the notes, he's not just a tech guy, he's a translator between hype and execution. And then you actually said from complexity to clarity. Listen, you and Richard are smart. I am not. I am the guy that needs it explained clarity, right? To me, it's all, AI to me means all inclusive. What does the world you're playing with now look like compared to yesterday or 5 years ago, and how much explaining and clarity is needed today? I really am interested in that. Yeah.
Wow. By the way, Brian Nelson, I'll give him credit. He's actually on my team.
Yeah.
He's one of our cybersecurity experts. I rely on him a lot to teach me things about cyber. He actually mentioned something to me about a year and a half ago about AI. The first AI hype was actually, believe it or not 2022. It was 1856. I think I'm getting the numbers right. And it wasn't artificial intelligence. It was artificial illumination. It was when the city of London decided to illuminate their streets to be able to generate revenue, traffic after dark. And it was the first major city in the entire world that took AI and actually did something with it. And so, true story, if you look up AI or artificial illumination, you'll find all kinds of articles and all kinds of hype from back in the day about how a city takes advantage of the most cutting technology. And of course, in the late 1800s, it was all about artificial illumination. Back to your question, though, Josh, about AI, most of what I see and most of what the industry sees today is pretty much hype, right? So how does a business take advantage of this hype, all these buzzwords, agentic AI, large language models, small language models? Ultimately, what are we trying to do? We're trying to ultimately, as any business operator, you know this because you own your own set of businesses, you're trying to delight your customers in ways that they've never been delighted before. You're trying to do more with less, right? We're all trying to figure out how to get more and more efficiency. And then thirdly, we are trying to all deal with this weird world of, hey, I don't want to come in the office and work. I want to work from a Starbucks. I want to work from the Delta Lounge at Hartsfield Airport because that's what I choose to do. And so if you look at those dynamics that really hit any industry and any business, and start looking at some of the use cases around AI, they fit in one of those three categories. Can I use data to gain some intelligence about my customer or my future customer so I can sell that customer something that they may not be aware of, right? That's AI or a use of AI. Can I serve Richard with a beautiful documentary on Netflix with my own recommendation and personalization engine that Richard now is going to be glued to the TV because I gave Richard what he wanted? An example of AI. In your world, you guys spend a lot of time in the oil and gas industry, right? Can I look at 30 years of seismic data and make a prediction on where to drill maybe, or maybe where not to drill, or maybe where to create some safety, constraints around. So there's so many ways to look at the data that we've captured over the years, and that's fundamentally what AI is all about. So when I get the question of, hey, what do I do with AI? I actually take it a step back and I say, let's talk about the data side first. Let's talk about data governance, data strategy, data aggregation, data enrichment, data classification. I can go on, but there's probably 70 different phrases around the realm or phrase or word around data that we need to answer first before we start getting into the area of AI.
Go ahead.
So, one of the things we talked about a little bit before we came on air was you and I always make the joke that if somebody tells you they're an AI expert, run away from them because nobody is, right?
Nobody is.
Is there, with your position, you get to see a lot of different verticals. You get to meet with a lot of different customers, everybody from SMB to mid-tier to enterprise customers. Is there anybody that you see out there that you would say has a mature AI strategy at this point?
It's a great question, Richard. I don't know if I would use the word mature. I would use the word evolving, or they're on a, it's like the maturity cycle or the hype cycle, if you use Gartner's language. Right. There are some organizations that have gone forward with creating a governance committee right? That in itself tells me everything. If I'm in front of an organization and they've got the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, they've got a CFO, the IT director, and maybe a compliance officer as part of a committee that helps to, number one, define what AI means for that business. They're also looking at it from an integrity and ethics standpoint, and they're looking at not only their data, but third-party data as well. Man, that tells me everything. They're much more mature because most organizations, we've seen this, you and I have talked about this, over the last 2-3 years, a lot of people have jumped into the deep end. Hey, let me go and buy something. Let me buy Copilot. Nothing against Copilot, it's a good tool. But then what's the first thing I'm going to do when I have access to Copilot? Hey, what does Richard Rodriguez make? I'm just a curious human being, just like all of us are. And so if you don't have the appropriate checks and balances in place and have the appropriate governance approaches in place, AI can be a really dangerous thing. And so for me, maturity starts with understanding the limitations and the opportunities around AI and starting with governance first.
I feel like there's a story where one of these companies did that and then somebody figured out how to log in and find out what the CEO and everybody was making.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real world example.
That's a real world example.
That's
a real world example.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the right guardrails and people just start, you'd be amazed at what you can find when you start poking around.
Yeah.
Because people just haven't thought of it in that frame. And, that's what Robbie's talking about is you can't have your own lens. You have to have the lens in a company from all different directions because what you think about with your marketing hat on is not what I think about when I'm looking at an IT solution. You and I, we've been in front of customers and that's happened multiple times. You'll come up with questions and, you always make the joke that, we're the smart ones like that, but you come up with these questions like, man, I never thought of that. And that's huge, right? And that keeps us out of trouble in many times because you have a different lens than I do or that Robbie would or that Caton would or anybody.
Well, I'm listening to what he was talking about. He said something a minute ago that you're trying to delight your customers. And then, some of the questions on here is that you buy outcomes, not products. And I'm thinking about an AI review board. That does sound very mature with regard to a customer or a company's organization structure. I don't know of many of our friends and partners that have an AI review board.
No.
Really, I don't. Are you running into that type of, when you say you are, okay, he's nodding his head, folks.
I don't think it's just limited or relegated to oil and gas. Most industries that I've run into, healthcare, maybe some of the more mature ones, if you want to use that word, are financial services because we're talking about a lot of data and we're talking about people's financial details. But for the most part, especially in mid-market sort of organizations, a governance board, an AI committee, an AI sounding board, call it whatever you want, just doesn't exist yet.
It does. That's a really interesting concept to try. I don't want to say sell, but push. It just seems like this is how you're going to get it integrated in your organization properly. All right. Well, on that note, you said CMO, CFO, IT, and compliance. That's what those four people that need to be on your board?
At the minimum.
At the minimum,
right? You also want customer service, if that exists, a function or the head of, the CRO is a revenue generating entity. But if there's a customer success office, then you need to understand what's driving or not driving your customers. What's churn rate look like? How can AI help me with, keeping that customer as long as I can as a customer? So there's other organizations, but at the absolute bare minimum, somebody who understands the financial implications, somebody who understands the compliance and integrity and reputation side of it, and somebody who's got a seat at the table from an implementation perspective, and usually that's IT.
So I've noticed you've left the CEO off of this. Is that on purpose, or they would get in the way? They don't understand it, or they just have to give the buy-in, but stay out.
I think the CEO needs to be involved early on. Mm-hmm. This is just my humble opinion. Put the strategy in place that this is something that is needed, and this is obviously the opportunity at hand. But once that's done and that sort of approach is established, kind of step away.
Because it sounds like it becomes more granular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul, going back to the delight your customers, think about this, Josh. We have, as consumers of technology, your Gmail just works 99.999% of the time. Rarely have I seen Gmail go down. My iPhone or my Android phone, it just works, right? So my expectations as a consumer in my personal life of technology is that stuff is just supposed to work, right? So when I get into my business life, my expectations are absolutely the same. Why doesn't stuff just work? MFA, SSO, whatever fancy acronyms you want to throw out there, I just want them to work. So my expectations have gone up as well. I've got friends of mine that run online businesses that are generating 20, 30, $40 million a year in revenue. They don't have a storefront. They sell most of their stuff on Instagram or on eBay or on Amazon, but what they absolutely are obsessed by is making sure that their customers get served no matter what touch point that customer touches that business, whether it's on their website, on a chat, on a support portal, or if they happen to pick up the phone and actually put a call into my 800 number, then I want to service them there as well.
I get it, Caitlin. Look at Caitlin; she's done phenomenal. These notes, and I'm just looking at this going. We're gonna talk about this, but I can't get off of AI. I find it so fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to go down every thread you're talking about here. How can we use it? What's the first thing we should implement it in?
Yeah.
Is it really? What about chatbots? What about this? Is your world of sales or customer servicing, whatever you want to call it today? How many other people are like me? They're like, I don't care about anything else. I want to talk about AI. I feel like that's every conversation.
I get the question all the time. Hey, how do I harness the power of AI?
Okay.
I'm like, dude, you got to give me more than that. What does that mean?
But what if they don't even know?
They don't. And I shouldn't say most. I think people are starting to educate themselves on what the opportunities are. But I go back to, simple building blocks, right? This is back to the background. Being an electrical engineer, you don't realize this when you're going through that program. You literally learn things at a electronic level, meaning at the electron level. And so you layer on your knowledge of technology over time, but if you understand it at the foundational levels, it really helps you to build a story around what this technology can do and what it is and how it ultimately helps solve some customers. I'll give you some real world examples of the use of AI. I'll give you two brands, not selling anything from these brands, but I felt like the experience was absolutely what I would want as a customer. Number one is Delta Airlines. Yeah. So I was in Vegas. Actually, I saw Richard in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, wanted to change my flight. I called Delta Airlines as a platinum customer. Immediately, the system, through data collection, knew that I was in Vegas. Said, hey, Mr. Gulri, are you in Las Vegas? Yes, I am. Hey, you're calling 7 hours before the flight. Chances are you probably want to change your flight. Is that true? Do you want to change your flight? Yes, I do. I kid you not, within 3 minutes, my flight was changed. Now, I did get a middle row. That's another issue. But I had my flight changed, and I was on that flight without talking to a human at all. So this is Delta Airlines using predictive analytics, predictive AI, predicting where I was, and most likely what I was calling about, right? I probably at 10:30 p.m. Las Vegas time, I wasn't probably calling about my next flight 2 weeks down the road. I was calling about a flight change, and I knew it. That's one example that I'll give you.
Was that a person or a computer that told you all that?
It was all a computer. It was all a system, right? The other is, I hate to admit it, I love Jets Pizza. I don't know if you have Jets Pizza here.
That's a Detroit pizza, isn't it?
It is. It's the thick.
See, that's when you're fat, when you know. I know exactly what it is. They have great ranch dressing there too, by the way.
Every month or so, this is kind of my secret here. I get this craving for a Jets Pizza. And
because it's delicious.
It's freaking good.
It is. Right? It's great.
It's really good. So anyway, I called Jets Pizza. Immediately, hey, Robbie, is that Robbie that's calling? Yes, it is. Hey, you ordered 2 slices last time. Would you like to order the same thing? Or we've got these other 2 things that you may want to consider. I kid you not, within 60 seconds, not minutes, 60 seconds without a human, I had my pizza ordered and I was on the go to basically go pick it up, right? I'd already paid because my credit card was on file. That's a very rudimentary example, but again, predictive nature. So how I explain, going back to AI, what these use cases are, they really fall into 3 categories, and we can dig into any of those in any great detail. One is predictive. Imagine if I could predict things before they happen. We've been doing this in your world, in the oil and gas world, for a long time. Imagine if I could predict that a machine's going to break before it actually does, right? Because then I don't have to, it's Murphy's Law, because inevitably it's going to break at 3 a.m.
Right.
You know this, Richard. You were on that side for a long, long time. And guess what? I got to send my expensive repair people at 3 a.m. to go fix this mission critical application. Years ago, we did work with Pepsi-Cola, and they came to us and with that exact problem. Hey, can you predict, based on IoT data, sensor data, when these dispensers, these drink dispensers, are going to break before they do? There's a lot of variables that go into that equation, right? It's not just the dispenser itself. It's how often is it used? Is it sitting outside? Is it in a QSR, FSR restaurant? Is it in a stadium like Dyken Park, like we did this this podcast last year or 2 years ago, right? So there's a lot of variables that go into this. Also, what goes into it is weather conditions, humidity, where these machines sit altitude-wise. So all those variables get fed into this math model to be able to predict when these machines are going to break. Because guess what? If I can give that at some level of confidence, man, that's a leg up on my business. Pepsi's, is going to have the potential competitive advantage over Coca-Cola. So that's predictive. So a lot of the use cases we see are in the area of AI around prediction. Can I predict when a machine's going to break, or can I predict what a human's going to do before they actually do it? When I ran my convenience store business for a little while, we would take in a lot of point of sales data. We would feed it into a back office, and I could predict pretty closely when Richard's going to walk in.
Wait, this is pre the world of AI that we're playing in today.
That's
right?
it. This is pre all the Chat GPT and the Gemini and the Claude and all of that world, right? But basically, you're using some mathematics to be able to do a little bit of a prediction model around whatever behavior should be, or whatever problems a machine should exist. That's one. The other area of AI is what I would refer to as segmentation. Imagine if I could segment bucket A, bucket B, bucket C, based on all this data that I collect about those buckets. And then I could say, for this bucket, for this segment, I'm going to provide X service. And for this one, it's going to be Y service. And maybe the pricing is dynamic based on what I know about this particular, customer base. Elasticity models, right? I'm going to go back to Economics 101. If it was less than 1, if I remember my macroeconomics class from years and years ago, that meant the customers weren't all that sensitive to price, right? Louis Vuitton, Prada, all the luxury brands, they don't really care about price, because they know if they increase the price of a fancy handbag by a couple of $1,000s, it's probably not going to impact their demand. So that's a less than 1 elasticity. If I go greater than 1, man, I got a lot of price sensitivity there, right, in my customer base. And so the data helps me with segmentation be able to define, the optimal profitability from a business standpoint. So that's that whole area of segmentation. And then to expand on segmentation, the third area of AI would be personalization, right? This is back to the example I was giving you earlier, Richard, about your Netflix feed is different for you than it is for me.
Exactly.
Josh, yours is different, hopefully, than it is, what mine is, right? And that's all based on, personalization. All K-pop.
Yeah, 13 and 15.
Yeah, right? So
it's every sports documentary you've ever heard of right now. My son is deep into these, but yes.
Well, 30 by 30.
We're way past. We're in I'm watching things on Allen Iverson you've never seen right now.
The original AI.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That's right. No, so if you look at all these business cases or use cases in the area of AI, you can really classify most of them in prediction, personalization, and segmentation. And then you start dissecting, the devil's always in the detail, but that's ultimately what we're trying to solve. So when I get that question of from a business owner or an operator or a CEO is how can I harness the power of AI, I go back to that example because that helps that individual frame what prediction could look like in his or her business.
It's actually the best explanation I've ever heard.
Well, thank you.
It really is.
Thank you.
I go back to your quote of complexity to clarity. It really is like all that was going through my head when you're talking is the 15 things I'm not doing that I should be doing.
Yeah.
With the data we have, with the network we have, with the contacts we have. And I'm like, okay, well, how do we get in the front end of, should we be doing more outgoing than incoming sales? It is just amazing. Like, it really comes down to data, cleaning it up, getting it ready, implementing it for what do you want to do with it?
Yeah. So people think this ChatGPT world is magic. I ask it a question and it produces this amazing piece of text or content or paragraph or essays or white papers on the fly. It's a prediction engine, right? There's input. So if you think about how our brains work, right? We got billions and billions of neurons, and they're firing all the time, and they're trying to make connection. I walk in here, and the studio reminded me of the podcast that we did in Dyken Park, right? I didn't really think about that until I walked in. All of a sudden, there's some neurons firing. Then I remembered your comment about the culture thing, right? So all of a sudden, there's these neurons firing, and so that's really how these LLMs kind of work conceptually from a tech perspective. Is you've got input. You've got basically these neural networks, you may have heard that term, where input is being received. I take that input, I basically rank it. I give it a bias score, and I give it a strength score. And from there, I can literally do a summation of that input to be able to say, oh yeah, based on the strength of this word or this phrase or this question or this prompt and the bias, I have now pretty good idea that that's what Josh is asking me. And from there, let me just take all the vast amounts of data that I've already collected in my models to be able to deliver something of value that you might find interesting or useful in your particular world. And the more I know about you and the more context I have about you and your business, the better that I'm going to be as an LLM to predict what the next statement is. It's not, I mean, yes, there's a lot of complexity, but it's still a prediction use case.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier, and a lot of these LLMs, and you're seeing it when, the first 1, 2, 3 prompts are predicted, pretty well.
Yeah.
And you're down that path. But it's when you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th where you get this AI slop, right? A lot of people, that's a term that a lot of people haven't heard of yet. They're just starting to hear about it. Go into it and simplify that on how that happens. Yeah,
AI slop is something, you guys watch any YouTube? I watch a lot of YouTube. I learn, that's probably the biggest content category for me or platform for me. I learn a lot of things on YouTube, but what I found over the last year and a half is this AI world is coming to fruition, is so much of this content is AI generated. And it's, you could argue the how useful it really is, but a lot of references to basically AI slop. Like, I'd rather hear you, Richard, tell me about your experience and your lessons learned in your CIO career than any machine with some fictitious sort of examples, right? So you see this.
You are starting to see a lot of that.
Yeah. All of a sudden, everybody's become Shakespeare with their emails, right? Like, you couldn't put 3 words together like 3 weeks ago, and all of a sudden, like, everybody's got this beautiful prose
and it's long,
in their email, and it's long. And so that's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see the snowball effect, right? Data creates more data, which creates more data, which creates even more data, which ultimately leads to hallucinations. It leads to a lot of confusion, and ultimately going back to humanity and connectivity. And that doesn't come from the machine. We have not figured that out yet. It really comes from us having real world conversations about real world problems. So I don't know, AI slop is everywhere. It's in the form of words. It's in the form of videos. It's in the form of deep fake or deep fakes. But it's in every piece of our AI journey.
We'll move on to some of this, but so I was complaining that my country club stopped using styros at the gym, which is a big deal for me. I like ice cold styro water. And they had these little, they brought in these little snow cone cups. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Where's my styros?
Those things that you pull.
Yes.
Pull
Like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
And the manager emailed me this eloquent.
Beautiful.
And I just hit reply with Copilot.
Yeah.
And it said, "What's your tone?" I'm like, "Angry."
There you go.
And it just replied back.
Yeah.
And then he replied 30 seconds later with a long, he hit calm, and it was, and I just to be a dick, I did it again, angry, and just automatic reply. And then he came back with another one that was shorter, but still, they were clearly AI generated responses to each other. And I said, "Hey," I go, "how long are we going to send ChatGPT responses till you pick up the phone and call your customer?"
Yeah.
And we talk about these styros versus, ice cream cups. And I had to go see him. And I thought to myself, like, this is a bad way to use AI.
100%.
Because all it did was annoy the customer. Yeah. And I got my cups, by the way.
Well, then you question why you were needed and the customer support manager or the manager of the gym was needed in this loop. It was AI to AI. Let the AI basically fight it out. Why are we involved anyway? Right. And so that's a lot of what's happening as well.
Oh, it was actually great now that I'm thinking about it. I asked it to create a doomsday scenario with the cups that he was giving me. And I said, I came in with like, it's a safety hazard and people are slipping all over the place. There's water. Somebody's going to slip and hit their head on a weight and die. And I mean, I just said, and I would never say that in my real life. But chat came up with 20 ways to kill yourself by drinking water out of an ice cream cup. And I'm like, this is fantastic.
Amazing. Did you accomplish what you were trying to accomplish?
I got cups eventually, but I mean, it felt like that's something when a phone call for between two of us could have handled it in a split second.
Yeah.
Instead, it was 6 emails that just got worse and more people died along the way. I mean, it was a pretty terrible. There's a lot of things that can happen, by the way, if you drink water out of an ice cream cup.
Apparently,
I'll let you know.
Never thought about
things
that.
You would never think about.
That's the first prompt I'm going to do once I finish up here.
20 ways to die in a
20
gym.
ways to die with a cone, with an ice cream cone cup.
Full of water.
I don't like those either, but I've never gone down that battle. But
Yes.
maybe I should.
No, you shouldn't. It's just a waste of. I might delete this out of the podcast. That's how bad it is.
It's a waste of power because you literally used up probably 20 minutes of light bulb time by all those prompts back and forth.
That is an interesting point too. Like that's from the energy side of the business.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to a conference in a couple of weeks and it's all about power for the data centers. Water. I've heard every time you say please, like stop saying please, because that generates a whole new response that the computer has to log into.
There was a white paper on that topic, something I read where if we just got rid of the pleasantries, like 10% of consumption of power because of AI would be saved.
That's an interesting thing to know too.
Yeah. For every complex prompt on chat, pick your favorite AI tool, it's equivalent of like 3 minutes of a 60-watt light bulb going off, right?
I read the flip side of that white paper. I don't know if you saw it, because the flip side of it was, let's take all the pleasantries of this out, right? But the premise of this white paper was, if you're taking the pleasantries of it out, but all I'm communicating is 90% of my time, especially younger generations, are conversing with AI, and they lose the ability and they lose the pleasantry. Like that's the other side of it. Of when they finally get in front of somebody, it's not going to be, "Hey, Robbie, would you like me to grab you a glass of water?" It's water now, please. Like it just breaks down the other part of it that people are not thinking of, right? Because that's another knock-on effect that's 2 or 3 steps down the line from where we're at that people just aren't thinking about, right?
That's a great point. The other thing, most of the time when we talk about AI, we talk about it in the lens of productivity opportunities. How do I write better emails? How do I build bigger business? Or how do I reduce labor and automate the things that I could automate? But man, there's all kinds of talk and implications around the security side of the house as well, right? I don't know if you guys have gotten a phishing attack lately. These are much more sophisticated than even 2 years ago when Josh, you and I did this last, right? These are much more targeted. They know who you are based on the data that they collect. They know that you're sitting here. The systems know. And because of that, maybe there's an opportunity to target you in ways that a traditional phishing attack was not geared to do. So we're starting to see the threat landscape and the threat vectors increase in velocity, variety, and volume as well.
Well, it's the same 3 ways, right? It's just flipped to a security posture. How's that personalization? how's that vector in where you're at, right?
Yeah.
It's
just flipped the other way. Bad actors have the same tools that we have, and they're very good about it. And they have the whole marketplaces that they exchange these ideas and these, call it ransomware as a service, AI threat vectors as a service. This is a real thing. And you can go to the quote unquote dark web and find, any of these things, right? So that's the other area of AI that frankly, a lot of organizations don't think about, and goes back to what we started this conversation with, Josh, is having a security-minded person, whether it's a chief security officer or, again, a compliance person in that committee or on that committee, is absolutely critical for any business.
I mean, you might be the best guest we've ever had. Again.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's like you're just, can I just give you my notes?
Please, yeah.
And you just go through this. You went almost perfectly where I wanted to go with cybersecurity. And then in between there, how is AI changing for both sides? The way you said it, there's bad guys that are really good at this.
Yeah.
And we did an interview, one of our very first ones actually, where they were talking about cybersecurity, and you should have seen me. I stopped the interview. I go, guys, we can't publish this. I said, we're giving all the bad guys these ideas. And the guest was like, what are you talking about? He's like, these are 10-year-old.
Yeah, these are, yeah.
Yeah, everything you think is brand new. These guys have been doing this for 10 years. And there's a show, I wish I could think, it's on Netflix. And it basically talks about a lot of this cyber hacking. And I started watching it. I called Richard.
Oh, it was Mr. Robot.
Yeah, Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
I started watching it 6 months ago.
Love that show.
And, I didn't realize it's 6 years old.
Yeah.
I'm over there going, look at the futures here. Yeah. And I click on it's 2018. I'm like, they've been talking about this for almost a decade.
Yeah.
The average CEO, the world that I run in, these are smart people that have no idea this stuff's going on. When you say the phishing is getting better, they're still, our friends are clicking all the time on PDFs.
Sure.
Oh, I got to sign this?
Sure, let's do it.
DocuSign from a .xy 123
Yeah.
That must be Caitlin. Click.
Yeah.
It is. So I had to transfer money the other day, my CPA, and I sent her a picture of me, said, hey, wire this money. Here's a picture of me. I need this code. Thanks. And I just thought that would be sufficient. 15 minutes later, she calls me. She's like, hey, somebody could have your picture. Somebody could know how you talk. She goes, is this Josh Lowrey? Are you doing X, Y, or Z? Yeah. And I hung up thinking, and she handles money for lots of more important people than me.
Sure.
And she must have gone through these classes to where they're like, trust no one.
Yeah. Zero trust.
Because I've known this lady for 15 years, and she would not wire the money without a confirmation of a phone call.
Yeah.
And I was stupid to think that she should do it the other way.
There's a concept in cybersecurity that's referred to literally as zero trust, right? Trust no one. And there's a whole slew of policies that have to be employed for me to trust Richard. If I didn't know Richard, I need to know Richard's email or his identity. I need to know the device that Richard's on. I need to know the location that Richard's in. I need to know the time that Richard is conversing or communicating with me. And I need to know what application that Richard has access to for him to be able to communicate with me. If I don't know any of those things or only a couple of those things, we've got a problem, right? And so zero trust architecture really is based on trust no one until absolutely verified in so many different ways, right? So the inconvenience is, man, I got to go through yet another hoop. Yeah. I got to get an OTP, a one-time password on my phone. I got to get or those CAPTCHAs where you can't even see the images and you're like,
which one's the dog?
Right, yeah, no idea. Right, that's the kind of the cumbersome side of it. But what we're trying to do is prevent some of these bad actors from taking shape to the tools and whatnot that they use. Back to the AI thing, that reminded me. There's a lost in translation language gap between a typical CSO, a chief security officer, and a CEO. Again, this is most of the cases, not every case. CSO comes in the door, and it's not a joke, Josh, this is a real world situation. They come in the door of the CEO and says, hey, look, I got all these vulnerabilities. I've got, servers that need to be patched. I've got on-prem infrastructure that needs to be updated. I've got hardware from 10 years ago. And by the way, the CEO is like, man, what's this going to cost me? $2.3 million. Okay, great. I don't have that. So you're going to have to basically create a priority for me on which of these lists or items on this list are important. AI can really help there as well, right? Because what AI can do, and there are some really interesting technologies out there that will go out and find companies that are similar to you, your profile, maybe look at the breaches that the company has had based on whatever's published, and then basically be able to produce a cost of risk mitigation report that the CEO is going to actually pay attention to, because guess what? That's all about risk and ROI and revenue, not about the vulnerabilities themselves. And so again, for every dark side, there's the light as well when it comes to AI.
Once again, your guestness is spot on. The next question is, what does good enough security look like?
Good enough security is if I can validate and verify that the user, my customer, my vendor, my supplier, my contractor is absolutely the person that is supposed to get access to my systems and my data, great. If I can't, I got some problems, right? We've been talking about, Richard, you know this, we've been talking about SASE for a long time.
That's Richard's nickname at the office.
Yeah, it is. I don't even remember what is it? Secure Access Service Edge.
Service at the edge.
Oh boy.
Oh, SASE.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Different name. Yeah.
Nobody knows what that means. At the end of the day, it's a fancy acronym for zero trust models or frameworks that ultimately you got to prove to me, based on all these policies, that you are who you say you are for me to give you access to whatever system, bank account, OneDrive file, whatever it is, right? And that's ultimately what real security is. And unfortunately, most businesses are not, especially mid-market companies, are not equipped to handle a lot of those scenarios. And guess what? Back in the day, we used to do business in the four walls, right? Within the four walls. I'd come in the office 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and leave at 4 or 5, and I generally wouldn't think about work. That's not the case, as we know, anymore. Like, we're working everywhere and nowhere. And so now business is all over the place. And so security is even more of a challenge. And then you add the AI threat vectors, becomes a huge challenge for practitioners of security.
Richard, as he's talking, I'm thinking of like our world of, NOV or Sunbelt Steel, for instance. Call it 2005 to 12 timeframe, right? There was some Rubicon in there for you during that time. But remember how many companies were 25 to 150 employees? If this, and they're still out there, those types of companies are still out there, obviously. They feel very vulnerable to me. Like, I'm thinking about not NOV. NOV is a monster, but like this Sunbelt, the 125 person company. They feel very vulnerable. I mean,
it's what we talk about all the time, where we have these conversations with, and how many times have we heard it over meetings, happy hours, anything, where it's like, that basic question, what's your cybersecurity? How resilient is your cybersecurity? And they're like, what? Nobody's gonna attack me. Right. I only got 50 people. Yeah, but you're still a business, and you still generate revenue, and there's still money to be taken, and they don't care if you have $10,000, $10 million, or $1 million. They're going to take it, right? And that is still, unfortunately, a prevalent mindset out there that, I'm safe because of my size.
I'm small.
Yeah.
Nobody knows me. Nobody knows my domain. I actually had lunch with a friend of mine in Atlanta who runs a unknown but very successful healthcare company. I asked, how many vulnerabilities, how many threats, how many threat vectors are you looking at on a weekly basis or a daily basis? 75,000. How can any human look at 75 different threat scenarios that are basically being impacted to that network, internal, external, et cetera. And so again, this is where some of the AI capabilities come into play. If I can take all of that telemetry, we call it telemetry data, inside of some database where I can then use AI to then sort of find the needles in the haystack, and I can focus in on those. That's a good use case when it comes to AI. You mentioned a word that really resonated a couple of things to me. resilience or resilient, right? I think this is what I find to be hopeful. A lot of organizations and IT leaders are thinking through a true cyber resiliency strategy these days compared to even 2 years ago. Before, it was all about cybersecurity. Can I curse here? When shit hits the fan, I'll worry about it. Right? Now it's shifting. Is it perfect? No. But a lot of organizations are thinking through not if, but when, and how my business is going to stay operational when things do go awry. Right. And so that's a different lens on the same problem. Is I'm just much more proactive. I'm thinking about a much more holistic IT stack for me to be able to solve those challenges, because I know it's just not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So this resiliency thing is a big movement. Yeah.
I was on a panel 4 months ago for one of our financial service customers, a bank. And I never like to go on these panels and speak from a lens of fear. But, I walked in there and I said, okay, how many of you would classify yourselves as SMBs? Probably half the room went up. Mid-tier, there was a couple enterprise customers in there. I said, okay, for the majority of you that are in here, let's just say 20%, or let's say you had a cyber attack. 20% of your cash reserves were pulled out. Mm-hmm. But let's say you could not bill, ship, do anything for your clients and this is a true average. It usually averages about anywhere between 14 to 18 days by the time a small business can get back up to running.
Wow.
I said, if you cannot do anything for your customers for 18 days and 20% of your cash reserves were immediately gone, could your business survive? And they were like, all of them were like, no.
Yeah.
And that's the part where people need to think about is it's going to happen to you. And again, it's not preaching from a position of fear. It's you have to be ready for it. You have to be resilient to that, because if you're not, your livelihood is gone.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks that it's out there, but that's the reality of the world that we live in.
Yeah. And a lot of people, again, in the larger small business to mid-market sector, I think the enterprises are a little bit more mature.
Sure.
Because they have more resources to throw at the problem. But they inevitably say, well, you know what, fine, I'll just move all my stuff to the cloud. You've heard that, I'm sure. So that's great. You literally shifted the blame to Amazon or to Google or to Microsoft. They're very clear with their terms of service. If anybody actually takes the time to read the public cloud terms of service.
I've read it twice, but yeah.
Have you really? Amazing. Shared responsibilities model, you may be familiar since you've read it twice. And it's very simple. It's basically, we are responsible for like this much of the pie. You guys are responsible for most of this pie.
We'll make sure the lights are on.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But your data is yours. Your applications are yours. Your workflows are yours. Good luck to you. So just because you shift things to the cloud doesn't mean that you shifted your cyber resilience strategy.
That's definitely something that, other than obviously you and I, are not aware of. That I wouldn't think that at all. I would think I'm good. I'm with Google. In fact, I did. That's how Richard and I got started on this.
That's right.
So I switched. We've been with Google Enterprise forever. Okay. One company's Google, the other's Microsoft.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, I'm just locked out of Google.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, cannot get in, can't pay, can't do anything. And I remember thinking, how does this happen? How do you get phished, or whatever you want to call it, attacked on Google? And you want to know how much help Google was? Not much.
Yeah.
If any. Really, Richard and ClearSync came in and saved the day, quite honestly. That's the only way we were able to get back into our system.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, these companies, they think, well, I'm with Google or I'm AWS. I'm cool. No. Wow.
In fact, it's the exact opposite for sure.
So remember when I said at the beginning of this, it all depends on the guest. If you're cool and you're smart, it makes it go easy. We've been flying through this interview.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things I want to touch on.
Sure.
Because look, we could go for hours, but that's not fair to the listener. We're not Joe Rogan. We're not drinking. So
maybe we should change that.
Well, we do have a full bar behind us. That's one of the best parts about this studio. We have two studios in Houston. One's down in the Heights. One's here in Memorial. And our friends, the Prang and Associates people, own this. So we have a full stocked bar. So listeners, come on in and check it out. The one downtown, we're kind of in a shared, we have our own offices, but we're in a shared office. And we're like, hey, we're going to build this bar. And they were like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You can't put a full open bar into your studio. And leave the doors open too. Like, yeah. They're like, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
I was like, oh, well, this place is terrible, but that's fine.
So they got a compliance officer on that committee.
Right. You should have. We were dumbfounded when we found out we couldn't do it. I was like, really?
Built our studio in a prison.
So I'm going to give a couple things, and you can kind of pick how you want to wrap these things up, because I do want to talk about a book and a couple things here.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you 3 subjects, and go anywhere you want.
Wow.
Yep.
It's like choose your own adventure.
Yeah, and honestly, if we don't like one, we'll be like, we'll cut that and we'll start over.
Yeah.
So how CIOs are evolving and where they're misaligned today, 26. If you're a CIO in 2026, what are your top 3 priorities? And or what enterprise tech looks like in 3 to 5 years if we get it right?
Wow.
These are banger questions.
These are big questions, man. Let's start with the CIO journey. We talked about this. I don't know if you remember, Josh, a couple of years ago. We finally said, we talked about the CIOs finally getting a seat at the table.
Right, which is a really important point, actually.
Yeah. And I think that's continued to be so, right? More and more CIOs, IT leaders have a seat at the board, right? And they are asked to think through how technology can help elevate whatever business that they're serving as the CIO for. So I think this is where the opportunity and the challenge is for a lot of CIOs. So CIOs, we were talking about this earlier this morning, that have grown up through the ranks of Microsoft technology and learned how to manage servers and manage NT. Windows NT. Remember Windows NT? Like we used to manage way back in the day. We never got the training, and we never got the coaching and the mentoring to have more sort of larger, more meaningful, and frankly more strategic conversations once we did get the seat at the table. We were asking for it, but I don't think we were prepared for it. And I think what CIOs are finally getting to is an opportunity to truly think through, again, fundamental business outcomes that could result from leveraging technology. So we're not just changing ERP solutions for the sake of changing ERP solutions. We're consolidating 12 ERPs into 2, like we heard earlier. We're trying to figure out what that's going to mean for my business. How does that impact my supply chain? How does that impact my workers here in America, as well as near shore and offshore? So the CIO journey is a continual thing. It's never a one and done, or hey, I'm finished with this exercise. And I think the CIOs who are adapting and adopting these kind of more strategic lens of the business with their business acumen in mind are the ones who are really succeeding. The ones who were, not being disparaging, the ones who were trained in the AWS world. I'm just picking on AWS for a minute, where a few people got some certifications and now they have a position of authority or leadership, but they're limited in their knowledge of what overall IT is and could look like, are the ones that are potentially struggling with some of those challenges.
There's a lot.
Go ahead.
No, there's just so many moving parts. Like, the world is moving quickly right now.
I think it's gone, even to go on what you said, I think it's gone even faster than what people thought a couple years ago, because CIOs were excited to get a seat at the table. But I think now, if you really look at it from a strategic point of view, other than the CEO themselves, who sets the overall vision for the company, you can make the argument that there is no more important seat than the CIO, because to be able to attack a business not only from a technical point of view and to keep because they touch every part of the business. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's sales, marketing, security, finance. Anything. They touch every part of that business, and they're the most integral part of that business. You can make the argument. And I think people really need to kind of shift their thinking in that, because you do have a lot of technical CIOs, like you said, that have certifications, but they're not looking at it in terms of how am I truly affecting the business and how can I really revolutionize this business to be better. And then you've got other people that were, elevated from a manufacturing world or a sales world, and you have an interest in tech, you be our CIO because we don't have anybody else. And they need to surround themselves with the technical part of it, right? So it's a never-ending journey, no matter which road you came from for that position. It never ends. I
100% agree with you, Richard. I did an event. I facilitated about 3 months ago. It was actually in Dallas. About 40 CIOs in the room, 30 to 40 CIOs, and we're talking about like from big brands, Marriott and brands we would all recognize. And so, a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm like, man, what am I going to teach these guys? These guys are well versed in technology. I asked a couple of questions that raised all kinds of hell. One I asked was, hey, I got a question. Is AI IT? Oh, you should have seen the room.
Hang on a minute. I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Is it?
My argument to that is no.
Is AI IT? I guess I would say no as well.
Yeah, I would say, and what I said, and I asked that question by design. I didn't expect an answer or one answer. I expected like 12. I got 56, right?
Everyone had a different
Everybody had a different viewpoint. Some folks in the room said, well, the CEO has mandated that we will be AI enabled, whatever that means, over the next 24 months. So therefore, I'm the tech guy because I'm the CIO. I've now inherited this project, right? So for me, it is IT. Okay. So that was a lot of the answers there. The other answer, back to what Richard was saying earlier, is, well, AI is not just part of IT. There are components of AI that are obviously used and leveraged in the world of IT, but marketing uses more technology than IT does in a lot of organizations. There's an AI component there. Customer support, churn reduction, data predictions, all the things we talked about over the last 30 minutes or so, that's not just IT. So there's a much more holistic, strategic answer to this world of AI. Goes back to the committees and some of the cross-business unit collaboration requirements that it takes to make sure that AI is a viable capability or tool set or whatever you want to call it within an organization. So that was one question. The other question I asked, and it's somewhat in the realm of AI, is so a lot of these companies, let me step back. A lot of these companies, larger companies, have a cost optimization team, especially for cloud consumption.
Yes.
A simpler way to say it is, it's expensive to operate in the cloud, whether it's AWS or Azure or Google, as you guys know with your businesses. And so people who have grown up say, you know what, we need to hire people who are looking at this proactively and making sure that those costs are managed. It's similar to like the telecom expense management world, right? I want to make sure I'm looking at my AT&T bill and making sure I'm not getting overbilled. AWS is not incented to save you money, right? In fact, it's the opposite. So the question that I asked is, should FinOps, financial operations or cost optimization, report under the CFO or should be the CTO or CIO, right? Again, we could argue that for an hour, but that was another question.
Great question.
Yeah. And so I felt like that told me a lot about where the frame of mind is for a lot of these larger enterprise CIOs in the room. Some people in general are looking at it as, hey, everything is an IT function. I'm going to own everything. But the vast majority that have actually evolved and elevated, back to your original question, are the ones who are like, man, this is not just IT for the old sake of IT. Yeah, right. We are horizontal across the entire business unit.
I feel like your second question is a lot different in 5 years than it is today.
Yeah.
That feels like a 100% CTO, CIO role.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be most likely AI managed.
Exactly.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, but there's so many knock-on effects that come out of that, right? One of our largest customers, they've taken the approach of almost splitting things to where, like your FinOps example, doesn't report into the CIO anymore. That is now at each business unit level, right? Well, the issue is now that's created all kinds of issues for them because each one of those business units is taking a different approach to FinOps. They may be using there's no standardization. So they may be using, different partners in terms of how they're analyzing that FinOps. Business unit A looks at it different from business unit C because they have different things that they're measured on. But then ultimately you've got the CIO who at the board level gets held to this expenditure. And he's like, how can you hold me to this? Because I'm not even in control of this anymore. You decided to push this out to business units. So there's different knock-on effects through those things that people don't take into account, right? Because is it still an IT function? Is it a FinOps?
Yeah.
There's no right answer. It depends for the business. But are they incentivized and are they measured on the same things that they were before? Because if they're not, you're setting people up for failure.
Again, that's probably a 3-hour podcast that we can do the next time.
Sure.
Robbie, before we do go, you talked about some things that you're working on personally.
Yeah.
And if the people haven't been listening, there's a lot of experience here and authority for your personal project. Can you share with us what you're talking about?
Yeah. So we've been talking about it on and off. I spent 100 nights in a Marriott last year and a half, and instead of binging on Netflix content, I decided to do something with the time, the plane rides, and started to work on a book.
Oh, wow.
It started off with just a bunch of notes, observations, customer opportunities, conversations with, again, CIOs, CTOs. And what I didn't want is yet another technical book on AI or cloud or cybersecurity. Sure, those are fun to read sometimes, but the world does not need another piece of content as it relates to the technology. I thought about something that you see in every industry. Think about it. When you go on vacation, we used to go on vacations. We jump in the car. We go to Florida with mom and dad. We go to Disney World and we stay at whatever motel in Kissimmee, Florida that we could. It wasn't really an experience because that's all we could really afford and all we could really do. Now, the market has shifted and we are now looking at much more of an experience. We want to shop at Target or Nordstrom's because of an experience we gain, not because of the product that we buy. So the book that I've been working on is called The Shift from SKU, SKU, Stock Keeping Unit, to make sure that people understand out in the world that that's the acronym, to solution. And the whole idea is very simple, that we are shifting from transactional to more transformational, from, again, selling a item, even in technology. Richard, you know this. We're no longer selling individual items. We're really thinking through business outcomes, thinking through how to delight customers, do more with less. All those sort of stories that I told earlier are in this book in terms of how we go about and solve some of the challenges that businesses are facing in this crazy, unprecedented, and complex world. So I'm hoping to have the book released over the next few weeks. The book is done.
Really?
Yeah. My editor has been, and I've been working on it for about 6 months now, and she's taught me a lot. English is my third or fourth language, so that's always a challenge. But sometimes I end with a dangling participle, and she's like, "Yeah, your 7th grade teacher probably warned you about this, didn't he?" So my editor's been great.
By the way, I don't think I've heard the term dangling participle since 7th grade. That's impressive.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
That's how you know you're actually working with an editor, because no one has heard that phrase.
Yeah.
In 30 or 40 years.
So it's more of, passing my time and hopefully bringing some value to the advisor community that we serve. And we started with my role at Intelisys, and maybe we end there. At the end of the day, I moved to Intelisys, one of the largest technology solution distributors in the world,
right?
To help solve some of the major challenges for organizations. Richard lives and breathes this. Technology decisions are no longer bought by yourselves, right? Like, companies cannot think through all the different technologies. There's AI companies being formed every day. There's like 70 a week that get formed. Most of them are going to go away. And so there's no way a CIO, a CTO, a CFO can, keep up with all the noise. And so they're relying on advisors and their partners to help them make those decisions. And what we do at Intelisys is to serve that partner community, that advisor community. We've got hundreds of suppliers on the backside, companies that you know of that supply network, wireless, IoT, security, cloud, AI, a whole plethora of companies on this side. And then we work very closely with strategic partners to help, again, meet customers where they need to be met. So I get the pleasure, and I'm grateful to be able to, help lead the technology team at Intelisys.
I've never given a commercial that good in my entire life. Not even a commercial, it's just a summary of who I'm working for, as well as you just did. And really, I second all of that with Intelisys. They are fantastic.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
Got a good team you've gone to work, and they're lucky to have you. That's a big get for them as well. Just FYI.
And it goes both ways. I've inherited a team of the leadership team, the engineering team, what we call our COE, the Centers of Excellence team. Again, no ego in the room. Mm-hmm. We're all humans, so we all have certain points of view and certain opinions, but no ego in the room. And the goal is very simple. Meet the partners where they need to be met, give them the tools that they need to help with some of the elevated conversations that are happening in the world of business.
Richard, is there anything else we've left out? We've killed it. Let's be honest.
We're the best.
We are the best.
You guys are the best.
Speaking of no ego, just a couple guys dominating the world at what we do.
All over the world. Milan, Houston,
Florence. Yeah. Dubai.
Hi.
Man. One day I'm going to get this invite to Dubai.
November.
All right.
I was talking with Andy today, actually.
Coming.
Yeah. So it's happening for sure. November 26.
Fantastic.
Robby. Gulri.
Gulri, thank you.
Yes, I think I might have botched at the beginning here.
I get all kinds.
I just got in the water at that point.
I used to get Gulri, my high school basketball coach.
Gulri.
Yeah, so all kinds of variations.
Well, Robby, head of Advanced Technologies Intelisys, and friend of the program, and just couldn't root for you more than we do. So this is congrats to you. Richard, is there anything we want to leave him with, or are we all good here?
Where can people find you?
Good call.
You're a thought leader. Your book is coming out. Where can people look you up and find you?
LinkedIn all day. Robbie Gulri, Robby, Gulri. Look me up. If you want to email me, you can email me at robby.gulri.
I was going to say, forget it.
Yeah.
It's bigger than you think.
Oh, it's bigger than I think.
Yeah, the show's bigger than you think. So
you want to get flooded.
Yeah, but just look him up on we have one of our guys. He's global, and he gave out his sat phone number on air one time.
Oh, no.
And I go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I go, what is it, $9 a minute? Give me a break.
On an Iridium phone?
And more people than anybody that I know. So everyone's just want to call me the sat phone here. It's going to be great. So, Kayla, we're going to delete how to email, but check him out on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
that'll be great.
For sure.
Richard, nailed it. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I came in a little bit late here today. Robby, again, great to see you.
Thank you again for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Our pleasure, buddy. It really, you need to be a regular guest. This is, I think you explain things very well to people that need to hear important things.
Awesome.
So,
I appreciate it.
That's going to wrap us up for the It Crowd podcast in Houston, Texas. Look us up on all our social media channels. We're on Spotify, as Robby's favorite, YouTube. If you're not writing a book like Robby is, we highly suggest you go back and listen to podcasts. If you have any complaints, send those to Richard. If you have any compliments, send those to me. Richard, great job today. Robby, thank you again, buddy.
Thank you.
Kill it again. Thank you.